Okay. G'day students, this is Mr. Lim and we're going to be learning how to name alkanes. So, the things that you need to know before this lesson are, as you can see, the structure of the alkanes, how to write structural and condensed formula of alkanes, and the carbon numbering system. So, please make sure that you revise these things before we start this video. Right, over here, if you can see, this is the condensed formula. And this is a structural formula, if you're wondering what those are. And if you don't know how to go in between this and this, then just make sure that you go have a quick read through your light book and your waste study guide, and then come back to this video. So, naming alkanes is also known as nomenclature. Right? So, the names of these alkanes can be broken into parts: the main chain and the side chains. You will need to be able to interchange between the structural diagrams, condensed formulas, and the names of hydrocarbons. So we're going to have a look at how to name certain hydrocarbons, right? And go through these processes. So step one, we're going to name the main chain. Okay, what's the main chain? The main chain is the longest chain of carbons within the hydrocarbon. So if you look here, the main chain here has 4. If you look at the next one, this main chain has 7. You look at this one, we've got a main chain here, but a side chain here. Right, so the main chain is 5, the side chain is 1. So that's what we mean by the main chain. Okay? So let's go try doing step 1. We're going to identify the longest chain of carbons, which happens to be 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So, what's the prefix for 4? It's but. Right? The suffix, whether it's an alkane, alkene, or alkyne, we're looking at this one here. We should recognize that this is an alkane. This is an alkane, which means we have a suffix of ane, right? Which means that this is butane. Okay? But for 4, ane for the fact that it's an alkane. Okay? Butane. Right? So that's easy. Butane. The next one here. We have a main chain of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 is hept. And this again is an alkane. So therefore it's heptane. Hept for 7, ane for alkane. Okay? So that's the main chain things, right? Next, we're going to be identifying side chains or groups. So what is a side chain? It's a carbon or something that is not on the main chain. So here is another example. Here we have the main chain, the 5 here, right? But here we have a side chain, okay? This side chain is made up of CH3, right? But first of all, we're going to name the main chain again. The main chain is composed of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 is pent. This is an alkane, so it's pentane. 5, pent, ane, it's an alkane. Now we have to look at this side group here. So we have to identify the length of this side group. This side group is only composed of 1 carbon. If it's only composed of 1 carbon, it is 1 carbon long. The prefix for 1 is meth. The side groups, or the carbon side groups, will be given a suffix of ul, or YL. So this is meth, ul. Okay, meth for 1, ul because it's a side chain. Okay? Right, so this becomes methyl pentane. Methylpentane. Right? So, looking up here, we can also see that this condensed structural formula, the side group is shown in a pair of brackets. Okay? Because this C corresponds to this C, this C corresponds to this C, this C corresponds to this C, where it has a H attached to it, so that's that H. and the CH3, which is that CH3 in brackets. Then this C is represented by that CH2, and that C by that CH3. All right? So that's how to name a side group. You give the number, and you give O if it's a side chain. This is only a condensed formula. So now we will have to turn it into a structural formula if we're going to name it. Alternatively, if you think that you can change this into a structural formula and give this name without doing that, then go ahead and give it a go. But we're going to draw this out. So CH3, C, 1, 2, 3 H's. Now you see the CH2, that means, and there's two of them, that means there's two CH2 groups. Now, this next one has a C, and attached to it is two CH3s. Like so. Have another CH2. Oops. And finally a CH3. Okay? Without that little bit there. So that's our transfer of the condensed structural formula to the structural formula. Okay? Now let's have a look at how to name this. What's the length of the main chain? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 is hex. It's an alkane. So 6 hexane. It's an alkane. Right? We now need to name the side groups. We recognize that this is a side group, this is a side group. These two side groups are 1 in length, so we know that they are methyl groups. However, there are 2 of them. So as it says over here in the notes, right, if there are multiple side groups, you write them if a di, a tri, or a tetra if there are 2, 3, or 4 respectively. How many of them are there? There are 2. There are 2 side groups which are both methyl, so we're going to call this dimethyl. Right? So this is dimethyl hexane. Okay? If the multiple side groups, when you have multiple side groups, the prefix here doesn't affect the naming. If we read over here, the side groups are written in alphabetical order. We'll get to that in a moment. All right, let's go to step number 3. We're going to identify the location of these side groups. These side groups, they have to be given the location in terms of where they are on this carbon chain. This carbon chain is consist of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 carbons. So it could be on the first carbon, the second carbon, the third carbon, the fourth carbon, the fifth carbon, the sixth carbon. Right? So we need to be able to number it from the first carbon to the highest carbon, which is over here. Now, you might notice that you can number it from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or you could number it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, numbering it from both ends. Right? I'm going to write that down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or we can number it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? So, if we've got 2 ways to number it, which way should we number it? The idea is to get the lowest number of the carbons to make the side groups have the lowest possible number, or the lowest numbers possible. All right? So, out of here, we have either a selection of 3, or we can number it with 4. 3 is lower, so we've got to give these the fact that these are on the third carbon. Okay? Because there's 2 of them, we need to say that there are actually 2 methyl groups, and they are both on the 3 carbons. So this is 3, 3, and then you need to put a dash in between. Okay, so dashes between letters and numbers, commas between numbers here. Right? So 3, 3 dimethyl hexane. So the full name would be 3, 3 dimethyl hexane. Okay? So that's one more example. Let's try something else. here we have a structural formula, but with no condensed formula. So we're going to write out the condensed formula. Have a go at writing out the condensed formula. Or you could just follow me doing it here. This carbon here, CH3. This carbon here, CH, bracket, CH3. This carbon here, CH, now bracket, I got to show the CH2, CH3. This carbon here, CH here, and another CH3, CH2, CH3, right? So here we have the condensed structural formula for that substance above there. But now let's go work on to naming it. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 carbons in the longest chain, right? You may also notice that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 carbons in this chain as well, right? It doesn't actually matter where you start from, right? As long as there's the maximum number in your main chain, then it's fine. So we're going to start from over here, mainly because there's also a methyl group on this one here, okay? So we have 6 in the main chain. The prefix for 6 is hex. It's an alkane, so it's hexane. Okay? Now we've got to identify the side groups. The side groups are here, here's one, here's one, here's one. Side groups, something that's not carbon, not hydrogen. So, the 3 side groups that we have here, 2 of them are methyls. So like the last one, we have dimethyl. We also have one that is too long. The prefix for 2 is ethyl, or eth. Then ol for the thing. Now, which one do we put first? We've got to put these in alphabetical order. Side groups are written in alphabetical order. Okay, so E comes before M. So this is what we were saying before. The di doesn't play a part in the alphabetical order. It's only the ethyl and the methyl. So we have ethyl, dimethyl, hexane. We have to work out where the ethyl and the methyl are. So we have an options of numbering it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We also have an option of numbering it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? If we number it using the blue system, we have 2, 3, and 4. If we number it using the red system, it's 3, 4, and 5. So 2, 3, and 4 is lower than 3, 4, and 5, so we're going to use the blue system to number it. So we need to say where is this ethyl. So this ethyl is on number 3. Remember, it dashes between letters and numbers. Okay? Now we've got to tell the position of these dimethyls, or the 2 methyl groups. Okay? We need a dash between here and here. It's on 2 and it's on 4. So it's on 2, 4, dash, dimethyl, hexane. So it's 3 ethyl, 2, 4, dimethyl, hexane. Can you see what I've done wrong there? Anyway, needs a dash here. So, that is that example there. Okay, let's practice again. Here is another condensed formula without a structural formula. Okay, have a go at drawing it out. And then, here we go. You'll notice that this one here, this C is connected to a H, but it's connected to 2 methyl groups. One will be over here, and one is over here. Okay? What's the name of this longest chain? It has 1, 2, 3 in it. 3 is prop. It's an alkane, so it's propane. Okay, we have one side group. It is a methyl group. And we need to give the position of this. Here's something interesting. This could be one numbered 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, and 3. In both situations, it's numbered number 2. However, if you look at this here, and say that we were to say we move this one to over here, right? So say we are moving this side group to over here. I guess this leads into the reason why we have such specific naming conventions, because if you have something that's slightly different, we need to be able to know that it's slightly different via its name. Okay? If we have this over here, the longest chain is actually a chain of 4. It's not in a straight line, but that's the longest chain of 4. So this would be called butane. Anyway, let's go back to this one. This is a methyl propane. Since it can't be a 1 or a 3, it's a number 2. We could call this 2-methyl propane. Alternatively, we can just call this methyl propane, and we don't need a number because it can't be a 1, it can't be a 3, otherwise it would be a butane. Right? Let's try this next one. It's a bit harder. How many are there in the longest chain? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a hexane. Okay? How many side groups do we have? 4. 4 side groups. Okay? We have 1, 2, 3 methyls and 1 ethyl. How do I show that I've got 1, 2, 3 methyls? I've got to call it trimethyl. Okay? Now, you may be able to see a problem that's going to occur. I'm going to run out of space to write numbers over here, so I'm just going to write it above it. Let's go work out the numbering system. So I can number it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Which numbering system should I use? The left to right or right to left? So we're going to use the right to left because it will give us 2, 3, 4, and 4. Okay? So let's work out the position of the ethyl. It's on number 3. So we're going to call it 3-ethyl. Okay? What's the location of the 3 methyl groups? It's on 2, 4, and 4. So 2, 4, and 4, trimethyl hexane. That's that one there. Let's try this one here. Here I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in the straight line. Is that the longest chain? No, because you've got a chain that could run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. What's the prefix for 9? Non. It's an alkane, nonane. If these are part of the main chain, how many side chains do I have? I only have 1. That's my side chain there. If I only have 1 side chain and it's a methyl side chain, right? That's all I need. I need to work out its number. Its number is 3. How did I work that out? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Or it could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's either 3 or 7. It's going to be a 3. So we have the final name, 3-methyl nonane. Notice how I've got no space between the L and the N there. It's one word, 3-methyl nonane. Let's have a look here. Now I've only got the name. Now we'll have to work out a way to draw this and to write its condensed formula. So 2,2-dimethyl hexane. Hexane is how many? 6. I've got dimethyl, so I've got 2 methyl groups. Methyl is how many? It's 1. And they're on the second carbon. They're both on the second carbon. So we're going to have 1 here and 1 here. What's this diagram missing? All of the hydrogens. Now we've got to convert this into its structural formula, its condensed structural formula. So it is going to be CH3, C, bracket. We use the brackets to indicate that it's a side group. So I'm going to say C, CH3, 2, because there are 2 of these groups on that carbon. So it saves me from writing it out again. Now you see here, 1, 2, 3, all 3 of these are going to be CH2. So instead of writing CH2 3 times, I can write bracket CH2 bracket 3. That counts 1, 2, 3. And then finally the last one, CH3. Okay? Now something a little bit longer. 4,5-diethyl, 3,4-dimethyl octane. Let's draw this out. Which part should we start with? The octane. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I got 2 ethyl groups on the 4 and on the 5. 1 here and 1 here. 4 and on the 5. I got 1 methyl group on the 3, 1 methyl group on the 4. Draw all these hydrogens out. There you have your structural formula. Now we have to do our condensed structural formula. So, start here, CH3. This here is all by itself. There's no CH2s next to it, so I have to go write this one out by itself, CH2. C, H, bracket CH3. Now you see there's 2 side groups attached to this carbon here. So it's C, 1 bracket for the ethyl, 1 bracket for the methyl. We're up to there. Now we're up to this one here. CH bracket CH2 CH3. See here, we've got 2 of the same, so we can condense that into 1, bracket CH2 2, and finally CH3. And that's that one there. Okay, so have a read through all of these, okay? Make sure that you recognize that the side groups are written in alphabetical order, which makes ethyls come before methyls. Remember that the multiple side groups, the di, the tri, and the tetra, they do not affect the alphabetical order. Right? Remember, if you have a carbon on the end, like over here, right? It's going to be part of the main chain. Also, if you have particularly long side chains near an end, okay? The location, so you've got to work out the numbering system to make them the lowest number. And then you've got to combine all the elements of the name. Side groups listed first, main chain listed last, dashes between letters and numbers, commas between numbers and numbers. Dashes between letters and numbers, commas between numbers and numbers. All right? So this document is on sector. Go have a read of it, make sure that you make your own, and have a practice of a few as well.